All right, so I think you're going to find that today is a lot of review actually, because we've been graphing all year long and we have the same rules that apply to these graphs, that apply to parabolas, that apply to our absolute value graphs, everything that we've learned so far. So the same numbers move in the same directions. The number in the front changes the steepness, the negatives still flip it. So we're going to look at what the original or the parent graph looks like here, and then we'll practice a few of the ones where we shift it in a new location, change it a little bit in the transformations. So the square root graph is going to start right at the origin, and then it's going to go up one over one to the right, and then it's going to go from the origin 0, 0, it'll go up 2 and over 4. You'll maybe recognize that that's half of a parabola on its side. Okay, it's the inverse function of x squared. Now it's not a whole parabola because it's not plus or minus in front of here. If they had plus or minus in front of that, then we would have the mirror image down below, so then it would actually look like a parabola on its side. But we're just going to be focusing on the positive one. Questions on that? All right, so now we're going to take the rules that we already know about graphs and apply them here. So looking at this one, remind me, where are we moving the graph for this? Up, down, left, or right? Right. We are going to the right. Okay, when it's in with the x, remember it moves along the x-axis, and it's the opposite direction that you think it should go based on the sign. Where are we moving here? Okay, that's either up or down, that number on the end. Okay, we're not changing the size at all because there's not a number in front of the radical or the square root. So we are just going to move this right 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's our starting point. And now we're going to plot those other 2 points, same as on the last slide. So we've got up 1 over 1, and then that guy, and we draw it. And that's it. We also have to state what the domain and range are. So, just as a reminder, domain and range you have to think of like a laser beam scanner, okay? And we're just writing down where the graph is. So if we're starting over here with our scanner and we're going to move it along the graph like this, are we touching the graph right now? No. Okay, when's the first time we do? What number? Okay, it starts at 4 and it goes to infinity. Okay, it's a square bracket because we're including 4, and infinity is always a parenthesis. Okay, now range, same thing, but we're starting down here with our laser beam scanner and we are scanning upwards. Okay, where does the graph start? Starts at 7 and it goes to infinity. Okay, let's try this guy. All right, let's start on the end here. What is this telling us to do? Yep, we're going to move down. What does the 4 tell us? Has to do with the steepness. Is it more steep or less steep? More. It is more steep. So it would be harder to ski down. And then what does this do? Flips it upside down. Okay, same rules as all the other graphs we've ever done. So let's see what this looks like. We're going to go down 3. This is where we're going to start. And then you have to imagine that you're skiing down this slope, and it's going to be steeper. So that means as you create this curve, and it's also going down, it's not going up, it's going to be steeper than what the original hill would look like, okay, which is like this one on the left. Okay, so you don't have to plot points. You just have to show me that, yes, I know this is going to be steeper than the original size. Okay, so now looking at domain and range with this one. We're starting with our scanner over here, and we're traveling this way. We first hit 0 to infinity. So we got 0 to infinity. Okay, now down here, we're starting our scanner like this. What's the first thing we have? Negative infinity up to negative 3. So we'll go negative infinity to negative 3. Questions? Okay, so it's really just a lot of review of graphing and our graphing rules. We have one last thing to look at, which is inequalities, which we've also seen before, so we'll review that as well. But are there questions here? All right, so let's look at these two. Let's refresh our memories here. First of all, where are we going here? We're going to move up. Where are we moving here? Move right. And then what does this tell us? It tells us two things. That's what? It's dashed line or a dotted line. Okay, and where are we shading? Above. Okay, and why are we shading above? Because it's greater than. If it's greater than, we shade above. If it's less than, we shade below. What makes it a dashed line? What gave you that clue? There's no line underneath it. Okay, there's not an or equal to underneath that greater than sign. Okay, so if we graph this, we're going to go up 7. We're going to go right 5. And that's where we're going to start. Okay, the size is the original size, so we need to plot our other 2 points. So we'll go up 1 over 1, up 2 over 4. It's a dotted line, so make sure you do that. Now, when you shade this part is important, because you can't just take your pencil and shade all over up here. This right here stops. There's not an arrow over here pointing forever to the left, so your shading cannot go beyond this point. But you should be shading everything above your graph, but don't go beyond that end point. Questions? No domain and range needed on these. Let's look at this guy. Where are we moving here? Yes, to the left. It's not flipped upside down. There's not a steepness or anything else. What is this telling us? 2 things. Solid line. And shade where? This one is less than or equal to, so it's shade below. That's where it's less than the graph. It's underneath the graph. Okay, so if we do this, we'll go left 3. It's the original size, so we're going to go up 1 over 1. And then our other one, it's a solid line, you told me. And we have to shade underneath, but we can't go beyond this line right here. Any questions?
Do you go up to from the second dot or from the first dot? Like up to over 4?
Good question. You're going to start here and you're going to go travel up to and over 4 from the original to get there. Other questions?